Okay, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Happy hump day. It's the middle of the week. You know what time it is. It's time to get into these real estate conversations. So, Fran, what I was saying is the script practice from this morning, definitely re-register, get back on. I think they had to redo the links, but get back on. They were talking about how to address conversations with sellers when they bring up the fact that NAR settlement says that they don't have to pay buyer agent commission, right? So what happens if we're at a listing appointment and they're like, "Oh, Fran, I just love you so much," because they do. And however, I've heard that I don't have to pay a buyer agent commission. So can we do it without that? So the conversation is now, what do we say, right? Oh, I took some notes. I was in a room with Brent Betchel, this other guy. I'm so surprised it's just us. This is a really important conversation. Okay. Okay. So first thing is ask them, what have you heard? Like, because they're going to be like, well, I heard you don't have to pay a buyer agent commission. And I would be like, okay, great, absolutely. Tell me more about what do you mean, or what do you think that means for you as a seller, right? And really understanding what what's their perspective, because we know what our perspective is, you know what I'm saying? But what does that mean to them? Because 9 times out of 10, if they've not sold a house before or they don't sell often, that wasn't never on their mind, no way,
Right.
right? They weren't thinking about, oh, do I have to pay a buyer agent commission? That wasn't, if it wasn't for the lawsuit being on the news, they wouldn't know. So what do they know? Because commission has always been negotiable. This is not brand new, right? It's brand new to them because this is the first time they're hearing this. I don't know why I keep looking at my TV like it's your fault. I'm mad at you, TV. Okay, for giving them all that fake news. But it's not fake news, it's just new news to them.
Mm-hmm.
So the news is making it seem like, oh, it wasn't negotiable before, but now it is, which is not the case. It's always been negotiable, right? So step one, find out what do they know? What do they think about that? Like, because they're gonna say, well, I heard I just don't have to pay. Okay, well, tell me more. Like, tell me more. What is that? What do you think that means for you as a seller right now? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that we're running across most of the time, at least 50% of the time, our sellers are also buyers, right?
Right.
So, they feel some kind of way on the seller side, but let's not forget, you about to be on the buyer side as well. So
Mm-hmm.
are you prepared to pay the buyer agent on this deal or the buyer agent on that deal? Which one do you want to do? You know what I'm saying? Because they're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to pay a buyer agent if that other seller is not willing to pay compensation, right? Okay. So that was my first step. Find out what they know, dig deep into what they think they know, just so I have clarity on what I'm about to say, because I might say some stuff that they wasn't even thinking about. So I want to just address what they're thinking about and what their thoughts are, instead of just throwing up my ideas on them or my thoughts and feelings about it, because that might not be their actual concern, right? Once they find, it could be the case where they were like, oh, I didn't know it was always negotiable. Well, then that makes sense. And you may not need to go into this and this and this and this and this. And then you go on a 20-minute rant and they were like, oh, okay, well, it's always been negotiable. So let's just go like we've been doing it, right? So dive deep into what they think is going on. Okay, then these are some bullet points on some things that I think could be a way to kind of have them look at it from a different perspective. So the first thing I put is how you market your property. So, Mr. Seller, our job is to get you highest and best price, the best offer, the best net at the end of the day. Is that right? Of course, we want them to say yes. So then when we market this property, I want to find an analogy for them to understand how to make the best choice for them. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if we're marketing your property, if you were buying a house, would you buy a house where they're giving 3% to help you with your buyer's agent? Or would you prefer to get a house where they're making you pay your own buyer's agent? Same house, same price. You know what I'm saying? So which one would you prefer? Would you prefer a house where they're going to give you money to pay your agent? Or would you prefer a house where you have to figure it out on your own, but it's the same price, right? Because if we're showing them comps, the house is selling around here is 500,000, they're going to want 500,000, not 500,000 minus 15%. I mean, 3%, right?
Right.
Which is $15,000. So, which went into my next point. I'm like, where is everybody right now? Did Jill put the message in the group chat? Because we don't need to have problems having these conversations. So that goes into my next point, Fran, about when we're doing the comps and we're like, oh, your neighbor sold for 500, but how much did they pay in commission? How much did they pay in seller concession? Because, you know, when we look it up, we can see the commission and we can see the seller contribution and what type of loan, right? And days on market. So those are like 4: commission paid, seller contribution, the type of loan. What was the last thing I just said? Oh, days on market. And when we look at days on market, throw in their price reductions. So 5 things. Because, you know, that house might have been on the market 60 days, but it started out $25,000 more. You know, that's half my listings right now. We did $25,000 drops, right? So we want to check how much the comps, the seller concessions, agent commission, type of loan, the days on market. What was the last thing I just said? I'm glad you're writing this down.
Days on. That's why I try to get the last one you said. Jesus.
Closing costs.
Did it true.
Price reduction. That's what it was. Price reductions. So pay commission, closing costs, loan types. Let me put this in here. Days on market and price reductions.
You said commission. What'd you say about the pay? Pay something.
Price reductions. How much they're paying in commission. How much they paid in closing costs. What type of loan it was. How many days on market, and did they do price reductions? Because if the comp is sold at 500, but it's been on the market 60 days and they started at 550, you know what I'm saying? So
for now, that's what we need to look as when we do our CMAs. Okay.
So what I'm doing is when I do my CMA and it prints, and you know the ones that are the comps, I go back and I put all the MLS numbers in, and then I find the data and I write it right on the top part, and I'll highlight it. 10,000 in closing costs, highlight. You know what I'm saying? $25,000 price reduction, and then also check the days on the market, because days on the market have been a little bit off. Like one of them was like 76 days, but it was really 104 days. So I don't know if it was 76 days from the price reduction, but in total, it was more days on market. So I'm really, really checking those things, because what ends up happening is, you know, we get at that listing appointment and that seller's like, oh, my neighbor down the street sold for 550, but they paid $20,000 in closing costs. They paid 4% commission. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we got to have all the data to be able to combat that. So that was my second point. The first point was about the marketing. Second point was when we're doing the comps, making sure that we get all that information, because that information is key. Sorry. Trying to find out where's everybody at, because we already know we're gonna have more conversations about this. Okay. Next thing that I put is, my note was, if that seller has to buy, are they prepared to pay the buyer agent commission, compensation? I don't want to, I'm working on not saying commission, compensation. Are you, so Mr. Seller, I understand you don't really want to pay on the buyer side of the seller house. When you go, we're selling this to buy another house, on the buy side, are you prepared to pay the buyer agent commission on that side? Because my thought is, if they're like, oh yeah, I'm prepared. Okay, so if you got it, you can pay it on the sell of this one, and let me just get it from the seller side on that side. You know what I mean? So finding out from them, if they have to buy, are they prepared? Because their dream home, they may not be paying the seller's agent. So what does that mean for you, right? So what happens if they're like, well, I'll use you to sell, but I don't really need your help to buy a house. He also said, we're going to come back to that thought. Okay, come back to that thought. So are they prepared to pay on the buyer side? The next thought I had was, or no, this is what Kenny said in my script breakout. He was saying that on the perk of offering this buyer compensation for the buyer side is so that you get buyers who have agents. So what's the best part about having a buyer who has an agent? Well, for one, we know that buyer is more likely approved for a loan, right? Because if there's buyers out here just looking at houses and possibly putting offers in and not represented and ain't did a loan application first. True. Right? So the perk of offering a buyer agent commission is so that you get a buyer that has someone who has vetted them to make sure that they have the ability to buy this house, right? Not just pump faking. Then also, when it comes to showings, you want to make sure that that buyer has a licensed realtor with them, and you're not just letting anybody in your house. You know what I'm saying? Because if they don't have a buyer's agent and they want to see your property, you have to become that available to open that door and then leave and then, just sit out in your car or whatever or because if you're at work and they need to see it during those hours, then what happens? You know what I'm saying? They're probably gonna be like, well, you should open the door. I can. But again, everybody's schedule has to line up. They have somebody dedicated working for them, right? I'm dedicated working for you. However, if a buyer just pops up, no agent, I need to go then get them qualified, right? So then that adds into the things that we have to do on our side. So therefore, our seller. In my mind, I'm thinking, this is side note, because this is what just popped in my head. If they're not willing to pay a buyer agent commission, then I'm gonna have to charge them more on the seller agent commission side, at least 4.5%, because I have to now vet every buyer. I have to now be available to show that house every time. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna have to charge you more for that. You know what I mean? That was side note. Okay. Then they also said.
So wait a minute. So you're saying if the buyer's agent, if the seller's agent is not contributing to the buyer's agent, and we are obligated, and the buyer wants to look at the house, so we are their agent at the time?
No, we're not their agent. Who's gonna open the door if the seller's not there? If the seller works Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and somebody wants to see the house Wednesday at 3 o'clock,
their agent.
Huh?
Their agent show it.
But they're not paying a buyer agent commission, so their agent may not want to show it. Or their agent may be like, oh, that house ain't available.
Oh, okay.
That's where he talked about steering. Steering is going to become an issue in a minute. Because there's gonna be so many agents who will say, "Don't you say it out your mouth. I ain't showing the house if they're not paying no commission. Don't you ever say that. You go show that house." So
So
that's
if, wait a minute. So if the agent refused to show it and they still, so they call us because of the sign, hey, can I see this house? Will that be our client?
nope. They have a buyer brokerage agreement with the other agent. You see how this is getting messy?
Very.
Because they need to just pay this commission so we don't have these problems, right? So I would be real with the seller and be like, hey, there's going to be times where, agents are going to kind of put yours to the back of the thing because they're not getting paid. I mean, if you worked a job where you could see how much you got paid on which project you took on, wouldn't you not pick the projects where you're going to get paid?
Yeah.
Right. This is not, we don't get no salary. So anyway, to wrap that part up, it was having qualified and verified buyers. So that's the benefits of having a buyer's agent representing a buyer is so that that buyer is verified, qualified. They have somebody to make sure that when they show your house is protected. You know what I'm saying? By a licensed person. And then also they're kind of like the buyer's project manager when it comes to the inspections and going through those kind of negotiations and things like that. A buyer's agent will help keep a deal together during the inspection time because sometimes buyers will look at that inspection report, and if they don't have guidance from an agent, they will think your house is falling apart because that report is going to come back between 30 to 50 pages. Okay, every house, I don't care if it's brand new, it's 30 to 50 pages. And if they don't have somebody guiding them through that inspection process, you may see a lot of times where they'll want to buy the house and then back out, want to buy the house and then back out, right? So having the perk of having a buyer's agent with their buyer is that they will help project manage that. They will help with inspections and appraisals, and they will help with that buyer to get through that loan process because it's more of a process on the buyer side than it is for the seller, right?
Yes.
Because when the seller's selling, they just sitting there waiting, right? But if it's on the buyer side, it's a lot more work. Okay, any questions, thoughts, feelings so far? We got Aaron on the line too. Good morning, boo.
Well, let me tell you this. What my pen went to? I was on, someone did a live, and the live came to me, and the guy was saying that if you buyer's agent do not have this buyer's broker's agreement signed before showing a house, you will be going to jail.
I think that's a bit extreme. Who's calling the police on you?
So is that true?
Where does it say that?
I have did no investigation on it yet. That's why I tried to get into
I
the.
think he's being extreme. He or she is being extreme. First of all, who gonna call the police on you? Police ain't gonna come arrest nobody for no real estate, nothing. Okay, let's be real. So it is a disservice to you. You could go do all that work and not get paid. Okay, you could. Now it depends also on their state. I don't know what their showing rules or violations and stuff like that could be, but you can't act like a fiduciary agent and you don't have something written in the best interest of yourself because you're going to end up volunteering.
So okay, let's get to what. So now now before this take place, if I get a Movado leave, Ojo leave, so there'll be no more free showing. They're gonna have to sign that buyer's brokerage agreement, correct?
This is where you are going to go meet them to get this buyer brokerage agreement because this is where you as an agent on the buyer side have to have to be able to do your buyer consultations on the fly. Because real estate is forever constantly changing. And with the introduction of the internet, 90% of the people have been on the internet and probably will come through the internet, whether it's an internet lead, your Facebook, your social media, or whatever, right? They want to see a house or whatever. The best case scenario, we could do a buyer consultation prior to we meeting out there. However, there may not be enough time in between. So when you get there, that is your opportunity to do that buyer presentation. And you need to secure that buyer at that time, because it's really for the benefit of you, benefit of us as the agents, to make sure that we're not just doing this and not getting paid. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be able to do your buyer consultations on the spot at that house.
The party say they don't want to sign it.
Well, hey, good luck to you. Let me tell you the reasons why, the benefits of having an agent, and what happens if you don't have an agent. So that's where this is where you really have to be able, because before, as a buyer's agent, you almost didn't even have to do a buyer consultation. Now you have to prove that you're worth this 3%. Just like when we go to these listing consultations, we're way more prepared.
Right.
We come with data specific to that. You see what I'm saying? So we have to put that same energy on the buyer side now to secure our commission. Okay. So don't worry about the police running up on you and taking you to jail. I'll bail you out. Okay. Don't worry about it. It's gonna be
like, I'm a show question. I was gonna question you about that. I said, wow, he was deep in that. He was all on
show
social
me
media.
where somebody is going to jail for that. If he's a broker and he's taking any broker class now, it's state specific though, you don't go to jail for things that are finable or that you get to look. Right? So you're not going to jail. Don't worry about that part. However, at the end of the day, it's really for your as an agent. We're not doing this for free. We're doing this to make a living. This is our occupation. We just happen to work on a commission-based type situation.
Right.
Right. And it's two sides. Both sides need to get paid in this transaction if they want to have an agent. So don't worry about going to jail. Any other questions, thoughts, feeling? But we'll dive into, I'll ask a broker. Or we can ask a broker or ask Kareem, the attorney, but ain't nobody going. What else? What else are y'all thoughts, questions, feelings so far? I got a couple more points I wanted to touch on before we wrap up. Okay. The next thought I had was, are you willing, how long are you willing to sit on the market without buyer agent compensation? So for example, you know how we'll get the sellers and they'll be like, well, I want to list up here that we really know the market value is here, but we're going to give you 2 weeks, right? You got 2 weeks, and then we're going to do a price. And we have to start doing those automatic price reductions, or we have to do the automatic, whatever we want to agree to, write that in the listing agreement up front in the stipulation to say, hey, we're going to go live on July 1st. By July 15th, if we do not have an offer, we're going to do a price reduction of $10,000 or $20,000 on X day, right? We also need to throw in there, if they're like, oh, well, let's see what happens without it. Okay, we're going to do it for 2 weeks. If we don't get any offers, then we're going to put up a buyer's agent compensation of 2.5% or 3% or whatever. Even if we could get them to do 2% or 1.5%, and then the buyer pays the other 1.5%, you know, it's better than putting that whole responsibility on the buyer. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we can get those sellers to negotiate. If it's not the whole thing, we can get a good amount, right? At least half. I think we could at least get half, right? So basically, how long are they willing to wait for us to be able to put this buyer agent compensation online or on their listing? And then how much is that going to be? And then, are they willing to look at how open are they to negotiating offers where the buyer's agent is asking for their commission, which we're seeing a lot of now, where we're asking for that in our offers. Now, again, state specific, you can or cannot put it in the contract, but I mean, that's something you can negotiate separately on your commission agreement. But how, as a seller, how open are you to receiving offers with compensation? Because the buyer's agent can, buyers can offer whatever they want. And if the buyers want to, in their offer, have you pay the buyer agent commission, are you open to that? Or a portion of it, maybe half.
So that'll be there will be when we fill out the buyer's brokerage agreement, when they fill out the buyer's brokerage agreement, they call us first to see if we contributing to
their buyer brokerage agreement with their buyer has nothing to do with us. We're not talking about buyer brokerage agreement. We're talking about commission agreement.
Where is someone in there for the? I'm confused. Go ahead.
What are you confused about?
It's on the buyer's brokerage agreement. Now it got, what the seller's contributing and what the buyer's agent wants.
The buyer brokerage agreement does not have what the seller is contributing. What it's saying on the buyer, we're talking about buyer brokerage agreement, right?
Yeah.
It has what you charge. Are you open to letting the seller pay some of that? And do you have to pay the difference? The buyer brokerage agreement has nothing to do with this listing and contract for sale. That's between them. So let's say, for example, you're working with a buyer, you do a buyer brokerage agreement, 3% commission. They want to see a house that's offering 0 commission, right? You put in an offer to say, hey, seller, our buyer wants to offer this, and the third, and we're also asking for you to pay 1.5% buyer agent compensation. The buyer then would be responsible for the other 1.5%.
Because they agreed for 3%.
Exactly. But that buyer brokerage agreement has nothing to do with the purchase and sale contract for the listing.
So if the seller agent said, no, we're not contributing, so that fall back on the buyer.
That fall back on the buyer.
Because they signed the buyer's brokerage agreement.
Exactly.
Okay.
So this is where it has to be very clear with your buyers. You have to be able to explain the compensation part. And don't forget, if you are doing anything new construction, let's say your buyer, you do a buyer consultation, they're like, oh, I only want new construction. Make sure that your buyer brokerage agreement is adjusted. Let's say you go to a DR Horton community and they're offering 4% co-op, but your buyer brokerage agreement says 3%. You need to update your buyer brokerage agreement to say 4%. Because if the seller's offering 4%, but your buyer broker says, I'm only going to get paid 3%, you will only get 3%. So new construction, most of the time, is going to pay more or a bonus, right? If you know that you're going that way, you're about to go to see a bunch of DR Horton communities and they might write a contract. Before they write that contract, say, hey, I need to update our listing agreement. The seller is paying a different amount in the buyer agent compensation. So I'm just going to update that on our agreement because it's from the seller, nothing that you have to pay for.
Okay.
Don't worry, we're going to have these conversations more and more and more and more and more and more. So if we're not picking it, I'm picking up little pieces through the conversations and script practices and stuff that I'm having, so that I'm going to make a channel in Discord. Help with I don't know what to call it, but where we can put all our notes for this conversation in there. So that we can go back and look at it, right? What y'all think? Any thoughts, questions, feelings?
No.
So just to
This gonna
recap,
start when?
mhm,
All this start when?
August 17th. But really right now, these are the conversations we need to have right now with our body, because the paperwork has already changed.
Right.
So we need to have conversations right now. And I would also encourage you to really spend some time and create like maybe a one pager that's like the benefits of having Fran as my buyer's agent. And literally list out these things. You know what I'm saying? I'm able to get you information that you can't find in the public, right? They can't look at listing history and price of that. They're not going to see all that. That's privy information as a licensed agent. That's a benefit. Jill, can you kind of jot these down? Because that make me want to. Benefits of working with Alicia as your buyer's agent. You get the inside scoop information on properties that you can't find on public. Jill, are you getting this?
Write it down.
Okay, good. And I'm recording this too.
Okay.
So first of all, for mine, you can highlight that I've been in business over 21 years, right? Also, side note, Fran, if we see any buyer accreditation classes coming up, let's get designated. Let's go ahead and get those designations just so we can say, hey, I'm a designated buyer, whatever, the thing, you know what I'm talking about. So let's get designated for those buyer agent credentials. So Jill, private information, information you won't find on public websites about listings. You get, I'm trying to find a way to say, when you work with me, you get connections to the top lenders, inspectors, contractors. Like when you work with me, you get these contacts, right? So you get access to the top lenders offering the best programs. You get the inside scoop on appraisals and inspections, and basically having us project manage this deal for you, right? Another thing is you get an expert negotiation specialist. Write that down, expert negotiation specialist. Because as a buyer's agent, let me tell you this, if you're a buyer out there with no agent and you come to my listing and I represent the seller and you want to be a customer, I'm going to write that contract in the favor of my seller, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to pay $10,000 earnest money. You have 1 day for inspection. Because if you don't have nobody negotiating on your behalf, fighting for you, you don't know, as a buyer, you don't know what's normal and what's not normal, right?
Right.
You have 4 days to do an appraisal, right? Things like that. So you get having me as your buyer's agent, you get an expert, top-notch negotiator to make sure that you get the best deal. Because at the end of the day, if a buyer is not willing to pay for their own buyer's agent, it could cost them more in the end, in the actual transaction, right? Also putting in there that as working with me, you have access to all the homes that are for sale and that you'll be able to set up appointments and get them into the properties. Because we have the realtor key for the lock boxes. I would also put on there that when you work with me as a buyer's agent, that you're not just working with me, but you're also working with my entire team, right? So we have an admin staff of 3, we have an admin staff, we have showing agents, we have attorney partners on disposal for questions. What else could we put? Why should you work with me as a buyer's agent? Also, this made me think of you, Fran. It's not just a transaction, because as the buyer's agent, I'm going to help you not just purchase this house, but help you with filing homestead exemption, helping you manage this house, helping you make sure that you get the best loan on this house. You know what I'm saying? Making sure that you have a great experience. That's what I was thinking about you, friend. The overall experience. Because buying a home is going to be the largest financial transactions you probably will do in your lifetime. The most expensive, right? So do you want to do that on your own if you've never done that before? Like on script practice, Tyler was saying about the lawsuit, how he was like, he was like, you don't, when you go to a car dealership and you buy a car and you pay sticker price, you can't go back 2 years later and be like, I didn't know I could negotiate.
True.
That's on you, right? But that's basically what happened in this lawsuit. They were like, oh, I didn't know I didn't have to pay this. I didn't know. Everything's negotiable, right? The thing is that if you're a buyer and you don't buy cars every day, you're most likely going to go and pay sticker price. And you're probably going to get all those add-ins and oil changes and all that because you just don't know you can negotiate. So when you have me as your buyer's agent, right? I negotiate deals like this all day, every day, right? I can fight for you. I will help you make sure you get the best deal, right? And make sure you're not getting taken advantage of. Because again, these are the largest financial transactions you will do in your lifetime. You want to have some guidance. You don't want to just freestyle this. Anyway, we're going to add on to that list, Jill, as we think of stuff. So if you guys think of anything, let me know. And we'll help put these one-pagers together. Because I think, because, you know.
You did the one with the 30-day, get your home sold for 30 days, something like that.
Is that you're right in my head, friend, because we have something like that for the listing side. But the buyer side, we really don't have like a brag sheet. You need to have somebody, and then friend, for you, I would put in there, you know, the experience of working with you, and I don't know how you can input those little videos, but the reviews from your buyer sides, like the Miss Robin and how she loved working with you, especially the sell buy sides, having those buyer side reviews and buyer side testimonials in your packets, or a video that you could share. Like, friend, if you did a buyer consultation with somebody, and then let's say the next day you do the follow-up and say, text them, hey, it was such a pleasure to meet with you yesterday. You know, I look forward to whatever. Take a quick look at this quick video that I had from one of my other buyers who had a great experience with me. And share those nice videos that you put together. Because to me, I'd be like, I'm willing to pay for friend. I'd pay for friend. You know what I'm saying? It's worth it to me. So we have to be able to express our worth for them to be like, I would rather pay friend, have a great, smooth, easy experience than out here wilding on my own and end up getting taken advantage of and lose money and be upset. I'd rather let friend handle it. Right. What else? Any thoughts, questions, feelings? I know we're a little over, but I think these conversations that we're gonna have over the next few weeks are really important.
It's gonna be scary, but it's gonna flow. It's gonna flow real good.
The good thing about it is that 80% of the agents out there are just out there being scared, and they're not thinking of solutions, and they're not. The market, like I say, real estate market changes every 10 years. Something crazy weird happens. This is what's happening now. But this is something we can overcome, because literally we've been doing it anyway. We just haven't been doing it on the buyer side. We've been doing it on the seller side mostly, to be honest. You know what I mean? And also, as we go through this transition, if we stay focused on getting listings, we don't have to worry about it. Because we're on the listing side. We're gonna get paid. It's the buyer agent commission that we're fighting for right now. So if we stay vigilant on getting our listings, and then just making sure that we express to our sellers, it's best for you to pay the buyer agent commission, or at least a portion of it. Because data shows these houses sold at this price and they paid 3% commission and $10,000 in closing costs. So that's why when we're doing the comps, it's important to have that data to say, this is what I understand. You said your neighbor sold for 500. They also paid 3% commission. They also paid $10,000 in closing costs. So what is that really? I would do 500,000 minus 3% minus 10,000 closing costs, and that's the number they really sold the house for, right?
Yep.
All right, guys. Any last thoughts, questions, feelings? We're going to revisit this every week. Okay, great. I know that was a lot, Fran. I feel like I was like, la, 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 but we're going to go over it and go over it and go over it. And I encourage you guys, if you hear stuff out there that you think is great, please bring it back to the group so that we can compile all these good thoughts and get a really good, concise system for these buyer side deals now. Don't be scared. Don't worry. This is going to get a lot of agents out the business and make room for us to get market share. So it's fine.
I try to get onto the workplace. I ain't call the workplace with EXP.
Yeah.
But all my stuff, I was telling you that the lady created a file for me to put everything in there. So I can just go into the file and click on workplace or click
Are you
on
talking
this.
about a file in your phone?
She created this file on and put it in my computer.
Are you talking about the bookmarks at the top?
You know how you create a file and you put
Are you
stuff.
talking about a Google file? What kind of file? Wait, let me stop the recording real quick. Let me hold on. Let's take a deep breath in. We're all money magnets. Money flows through us easily and freely. Scared money don't make no money, so we ain't worried about nothing out there because we do the right things in real estate every day, right, Fran? And we're
Every
gonna
day.
get our one-page brag sheets together so that they know we're worth everything. Okay. All right, and we'll come back next Wednesday again and talk about this. I'm gonna stop the recording.